Today we're chatting with Red Wolf 12-year vet Shannon, and she's actually been working with me since even before Red Wolf CrossFit, which is awesome. And she's here to share her fitness journey, and I'm very lucky to at least see her journey for 13 years. And we get to hear her story from the beginning. So Shannon, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Excited to be here. I like it. Let's do this. All right. So let's just start from the beginning. So what motivated you to start your fitness journey in the first place?
Well, I've always been an active person. I grew up doing a lot of hiking, a lot of backpacking, camping, a lot of time in the ocean, but never really knew that I could push myself. And it wasn't until CrossFit that I figured out that I could challenge my body the way that I could challenge other aspects of my life, like my academics. And so I never was really out of shape, but never in shape. And I had a cousin who told me about CrossFit, and I knew that there was one right down the street from where I was. And I walked in 13 years ago, and you were working out with Pinky, and I told you, I said, I think I'm going to stay here for the summer and just get some ideas on how to be in shape. And I never left after that.
I know. Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
I remember I coached you through your fundamentals.
Absolutely.
Those 3 sessions at my old gym before I opened my own. And then you followed me over. So
I did. Yeah.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
Man, 13 years.
Yeah.
That's such a long time.
It's a lifetime. Like, I think about where my life has gone in these last 13 years. And I went from being a first-year teacher, just kind of getting my feet on the ground with my career, and then now being a 14-year vet teaching and have 2 kids. And like, I feel like CrossFit's been a constant in my life through all these different changes. It's been kind of cool.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Tell us, so you are a teacher full-time, and I didn't even know that was your first year teaching as well?
Yeah,
when you first started CrossFit?
I just finished my first year of teaching. It was that first summer that I had off and was looking for a way to kind of try something new during the summer. And well, I had time off because I was not used to that. And yeah, it stuck.
That's awesome. So how do you balance your career as a teacher with your commitment to fitness and health? Because clearly that's a stressful profession, and you've done this for a very long time. So I'm sure a lot of people are curious to know how you're able to do this.
It's a part of my schedule, and it's non-negotiable. I have to figure out what balances into my career and make sure that it's going to work. And I've found a way to just make it a part of my routine, and I never vary from that. So I know that that I need to work out 4 days a week in order to continue to grow and stay healthy and stay happy. I feel like it's a big part of my mental health.
Yeah.
And so I do my 5 a.m. workouts because I know that I can't come up with excuses at 5 a.m. except for staying in bed, and that's not a valid excuse. So I never let that get in the way. I know that I need to get to work early 1 day a week to just get all of my work done. And so I have my 1 rest day on Thursdays, and then I save the weekends for family time. And I just know that those 4 days are never going to change, and it works.
Yeah, so you just put in a schedule, like this is what I'm doing regardless of how I feel, and it's going to get done because I know I have structured days off.
Exactly.
That's awesome. That's a great way to put it, because I think a lot of times it's like, I'll just work out when I'm motivated or work out when I'm feeling good enough to go. But when you make it non-negotiable and you put in your schedule and be like, no, these are my days off, so I will have time off.
Yeah.
But these are also the days where I'm going to do it, so that way I make sure I get it in.
Yeah, and I found having a time of day where nothing else can get in the way is so crucial, because for a while I was doing 4:30s, and
I remember that.
And I found that, I have a work meeting. I need to get the girls early today.
Yeah.
I have a doctor's appointment. There were too many variables at that time of the day for me. And so you just really have to find a time of day that nothing's going to get in the way.
Yeah. I think that's a really good point, because any adult, there's going to be friction. So being able to find that time of where there's the least amount of constraints to where you can get in the gym and get it done is the best option. And for most of us, that's going to be early in the morning or, before noon for most of us. So no, that's awesome. It's really cool to have you to hear how you structure it and being like, hearing it from other people too. And then for some reason, like when I'm coaching other people, is like, and I tell them the same thing. I'm like, hey, our most successful people do this. They put in their calendar, they have a set time every day that they do it, and they have a set days off that they do it. And then they look at me and they're like, but I don't want to do that. I'm like, well, I'm sorry, but
it's what works.
Like if you can have this or you can have that, but there's going to be some choices that we have to make. So that's awesome. I love hearing that. Tell us a little bit more about your teaching, like what grade level you teach, what subjects you teach. Give us your teaching background.
Yeah, I teach high school math. I have taught everything from remedial algebra up to AP calculus. I've taught at 2 different schools. I've been at my school for the past 12 years. And I love it. It's a really fun, entertaining job. Kids are hilarious. And it's so fun to see them grow and learn, especially like when you have a kid that's a freshman and then you see them grow to their senior year and you see the changes and that they make and see them turn into real people. It's really quite an incredible journey. And to get to do that year after year and see hundreds and hundreds of kids become members of society, it's pretty incredible.
That's awesome. Let's dig a little bit deeper into that. Like what is the most rewarding part for you personally to be an educator?
I love seeing a kid that works, that struggles, that and then sees the reward from that.
Yeah.
There's nothing like seeing a kid who really works and that work pays off.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. The kids that are gonna do great no matter what, like they're fun to teach and they're easy to teach, but there's nothing like having somebody who's hungry for it.
Yeah.
That really needs that support to be successful.
Yeah. That's so funny you mentioned that, because I feel the same way when I coach people at the gym. It's like, you have some people who don't, need a lot of help with their nutrition. They don't need help with motivation. Like they just show up, do it, and they're good to go. But yeah, same thing with me. Like I love watching people who aren't the most athletically gifted, aren't the most genetically gifted, and have a lot of obstacles that they have to overcome, but they do it anyways.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they have to battle it, and it is harder for them. Their circumstances are worse than other people's, but they show up regardless. And then that is what gets me fired up too. Yeah,
and I see so many parallels between like my kids learning math and me struggling with fitness. Like I'm a small person. I've never been able to lift super heavy, but I am constantly working at it. And I know that I can always improve. And I think having that constant like goal setting and having a direction of what I can struggle with and get bigger with kind of keeps me from getting jaded with teaching math. Because I feel like once you've been doing something for so long, sometimes you can be like, oh, this is so easy. I've been doing it forever. Why aren't you understanding this?
Yeah.
And if you have something that you're working on that you're like, oh, you know what, I'm struggling with this, I can remember what these kids are feeling like when they're struggling with the math concept. Yeah.
No, that's awesome. Are there any other parallels like that you see with fitness and education?
I would say definitely the growth mindset been a big push in education, especially math education, the last probably, I want to say 7 or 8 years, of kids having the mentality of, I can do this. It may take me a little bit longer. I may have some gaps I need to fill in, but I have the ability to get there, is something that I've definitely been pushing with my kids, and being okay with mistakes and being okay with failure and learning from those mistakes has been really a big push that I've had my last few years teaching. And I think it's the same thing with fitness, like knowing that, okay, it's okay to fail on a heavy back squat because it means that I'm trying something hard, my muscles are growing, I'm getting better. There's so many parallels with something challenging. I always tell my kids, like, you want to have a productive struggle when you're trying to work on a math problem. Like, it's okay to struggle. It's okay to not get it right away. But that struggle means that your brain is growing, you're making connections, you're learning, and then we can come back and kind of take a look back and learn from that.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree, because I think a lot of us want to avoid the struggle at all costs.
Absolutely.
We want to avoid the pain points. We don't want to struggle. We don't want anyone to see us fail. And that's something I really had to learn over time. And that's what fitness taught me as well, because I'll be honest with you, Shannon, I was one of those kids that didn't try hard in school. I was one of those. And, but yeah, fitness taught me the same thing. But then once I learned that through fitness, I started applying that to my school. So all my schooling. So it's cool to see that parallel. Can you share like a memorable moment specifically when you were teaching where it was like that aha moment of where you see like that growth kind of mindset?
I had this kid, I'll never forget him. He was in an Algebra 2 class, and he came in, and he was one of those kids where I was like, how did you even pass Algebra 1?
Yeah.
You know, just
Right.
like skills just so low. And I clicked with this kid, and I worked with him a lot one-on-one, and he got very encouraged. I had a really good class environment in that class.
Right.
And I'll never forget him. He worked so hard, and he ended up getting an A in my class second semester, and ended up taking my honors pre-calculus class the next year. And it was just one of those moments where you're like, okay, like I had this kid come in with a heavy deficit, but he was so hungry to succeed and didn't let those deficits didn't let them define him.
Yeah.
And he was able to push through that, and just the drive and the hunger and working with me one-on-one a little bit, staying after school. He did great.
Yeah, that's awesome. Do you find that, at least in the education space, that some kids have you seen kids develop that mindset as they go through it, or is it kind of one of those things where they kind of have it or they don't?
No, I've definitely had kids to develop that. A lot of times you end up with like a freshman boy that is still not, it hasn't hit yet.
Yeah.
And you,
That's a nice way to put it.
yeah. And I actually do like growth mindset lessons every week with my Algebra 1 kids.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Just to kind of keep that
Right.
thought going. And sometimes it doesn't click till later, but you definitely see some kids starting to realize, oh, you know what, I can do this. And it's really cool when you see that start to set in with them.
And that's such a great quality. I mean, you would think that a math teacher I'm here to give you like fact-based, there's a linear progression to this, there's a right or wrong answer, but it's cool to see you developing more than just math skills, but you're developing those growth mindset skills as well.
I tell you, with like freshman classes, it's more about teaching them how to be students than anything else. The math isn't bad. And I can teach Algebra 1 in my sleep, but teaching a kid how to keep a notebook and teaching them how to pay attention and how to try things. And it just, that's the hardest part of my job, is teaching a kid how to be a student versus anything else.
Yeah. And that's awesome, because they're going to acquire those skills early on, and that's going to transfer to their either higher levels of education or into the workforce. So that's really cool. Let's kind of pivot here. And there's one thing I kind of want to touch on about, raising your girls and, how they can be strong too. And that's something that you didn't really have growing up. Am I right?
Yeah, I was a tiny child. I don't know if you knew this about me, but like my freshman year of high school, I was 4'8" and 72 pounds.
Wow.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I was a tiny child. And so I was raised to think that girls could do anything they wanted to academically, and I was able to challenge myself that way, but I was never really taught that I could be strong. And it was kind of like, okay, you're small, we can't compete in that aspect.
Right.
And so it wasn't until I found CrossFit that I was like, oh, I can challenge myself and I can get stronger, and I might not be as strong as some of the bigger people, but I can always improve, and I can get stronger. And I really like seeing with my girls that they're starting to pick up on that early.
That's awesome.
Yeah. We'll sit at dinner and we're like, okay, eat your protein because you want to be strong, and they'll both show me their muscles.
That's awesome.
So I definitely want them to know early on that it's okay for them to be strong, even if they're little, because they have my build. but definitely knowing that it's okay for girls to be strong, I think it's so important, because I didn't realize that was something that I was craving until until I got into this community.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really cool to see how, CrossFit really helped you develop that mindset as well. And then now you're already passing that along to your kids.
Yeah.
What's other qualities that you see in yourself that you kind of developed through CrossFit that you want to pass on to them as well?
Just persistence. I feel like persistence is one of the biggest life skills you can have. And I feel like that's something that can make or break a successful person.
Right.
And I want them to know that trying something and always being better, always getting better and always improving is a lifelong skill that I want them to always kind of go off of.
No, that's awesome. 100%. Can you kind of, going off that, can you share a memorable moment or breakthrough that you had when you've been with us at Red Wolf?
Yeah. Coming back after my second pregnancy has been probably my biggest success in CrossFit over the 13 years. Caitlin does such a good job of doing the postpartum programming and kind of having us strip it back down to the basics. And I feel like I really grasped onto it this time around. And I did. I went back to lightweight and focusing more on my core. And I took a while before I started putting the weight back on the barbell. And I really see huge improvements with me this time around. Just in general, I feel like I'm stronger than I've ever been. And that's after having 2 kids. And it's really, really fun to see that I can continue improving even though I'm in this different stage of life and don't have as much time to put into the gym.
Right.
But I know how to move better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's all. And that's one thing, I know this is kind of a side note, but this is one thing that I forgot to bring up that I noticed ever since I started working with you all the way back 13 years ago was that the number one thing I noticed was that you were very coachable.
Yes.
Yeah. When I was taking you through your fundamentals, I still remember taking you through your fundamentals and you were all ears and you listened. You asked good questions. And then when you were, taking the classes when we were at Orange Coast, like same thing, like you would listen, you got pull-ups pretty quickly, I feel like.
It was about a year. Yeah.
That's still really fast.
Yeah.
From going from almost not a strength background at all to being able to do pull-ups in a year is great.
I had no upper body strength to begin with. Yeah.
Yeah. So, that's awesome. And that year progression, and it wasn't because you were like, well, I can do this. In like an egotistical way. It was like you listened, you were like, you did the progressions. You knew where to start. We started with the band. We started with just gaining strength. And then from there, you ended up getting pull-ups in a year, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
Very cool. So with that, as a teacher, have you incorporated any aspects of the fitness lessons that you've learned into your teaching or personal interactions with students? I know I'm kind of yo-yoing here back and forth, but this question just kind of popped in my head.
No, just more the motivational side of things and the growth mindset things and the persistence. I think those transfer. I don't necessarily talk about fitness during my lessons,
for sure,
but my kids know that I'm active, and they'll ask me every once in a while something like, oh, how fast can you run a mile? And
so they want to know your stats.
they want to know, and so it helps build rapport. But I think also knowing that your teacher's working hard, and so I can work hard. I think they respect that.
Yeah, and I think that also transfers to your kids too, right? Because
absolutely.
Especially with kids that they look up to us regardless if we're their parents or not. They're going to look up to adults because we're authority figures. So if they see us doing certain things, that they're going to kind of be like, well, this is normal then. It's normal to eat protein and to exercise and go to the gym and to be fit. And yeah.
It was cute. I was watching TV with Addison the other night, and some fitness commercial came on. She's like, Mama, that's what you do. And I was like, oh, yes. I'm like, this is exactly what I want her to pick up on, that this is a good thing, that it's good to be strong and it's good to be fit.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's awesome. And how has being a part of a gym community impacted your life outside the gym? Maybe not necessarily in the classroom at home, but what about you personally?
I'm a happier person. All in all, being a part of a community of other people that are trying to better themselves, it's inspiring. I love being a part of the 5 a.m. class where there's a ton of working moms doing the same thing that I am, just trying to be the best for their family and taking care of themselves. And I think that's inspiring to surround yourself with people that have similar goals. And I just feel like all in all, if you're taking care of yourself, you're a better, I'm a better teacher, I'm a better parent, I'm a better partner for my husband. Like, just all in all, I feel like it's such a positive impact on my life.
Yeah, I agree with you. I didn't realize, at least when I started working out, I didn't realize how much of an impact this would make on my personal life and like my personal development, and seeing the rewards of being patient and sticking with something even though I'm not seeing instant gratification. And I think once you kind of learn that through fitness, it's really easy for it to bleed over, because let's be real, fitness is hard.
It is.
Like, it's not easy. Like, I've been doing this a long time and I like physical activity. It is still very difficult, even for me who enjoys it a lot.
Yeah. That's what I love about it, though. Like, I love that you're never gonna reach that peak.
Yeah.
Like, that there's always something to climb to. And I think that's what made it stick for me.
CrossFit specifically?
CrossFit specifically, yeah.
Yeah, because there's never really an end date with CrossFit. There's always something you can tweak, always something you can improve.
Yeah.
Did you feel like that was kind of a plateauing thing for you before you found CrossFit?
I would go to the gym, but I was bored. Right? Like, I hated it. Like, the treadmill and spin classes, and like, I tried a few weight things, but like, I put my headphones in to like just zone out and not talk to anyone, and it was boring. And there's no way I would be where I am today if I hadn't found something like CrossFit that just sucked me in.
Yeah. It's funny you bring that up, because I remember this probably was at least a year or two ago when you and I were talking at the gym, and you looked at me and you say, I will never go back to a regular gym ever again.
Yeah, no. And I think it's so funny that like the conversation I had with you when I first signed up at the old gym was, oh, I'm going to get a few ideas, and then when I go back to teaching for the school year, I'll go back to the old thing. And it just after a couple weeks, it was like, no, this is the best way that I could spend my hour, because it does everything you need. I don't have to think about it.
Yeah.
And working out with a class is so much better than working out on your own.
Oh yeah, it's 10 times better.
Yeah.
It's funny that you had that same mentality coming into it as I did, because when I first started CrossFit, it was actually a New Year's resolution, and I was like, hey, I'm just going to try this I'm going to commit to one whole year, starting January 1st, and then I'm just going to see where it takes me, and then I'm probably just going to go back to regular workouts, and then here I am today.
Yeah.
Which is funny. Can you share a challenge that you faced in fitness and how you overcame it?
Yeah. Coming back after having my first baby, that one was a little bit of a challenge for me. And it was mostly that 4:30 time. I came back and I wanted to just go right back into my same fitness routine, even though I had this huge life altering thing. Like, becoming a parent is huge. And I wanted to do everything the same. I still had my leadership position at work.
Right.
So I had leadership meetings I was going to, and running the educational technology program at our school. It was just a lot. Then COVID hit, and I was all of a sudden teaching at home and taking care of a baby. And then when I went back to work, it was like, okay, well, I can't really do the 4:30 time, because then I have my kid at daycare from 6:30 to 5:30, and that's too long.
Yeah.
So it was trying to figure out how to get it into my schedule, and I started doing open gym, because I can pick up the kid early, and it just didn't fit. And it wasn't until I was like, you know what, I need to make a change. I need to do 5 a.m. that things started finally clicking for me again. But that was really hard, trying to fit my old routine into my new life.
Yeah. So but it's good that you recognize that and you made an adjustment, where I think most people would just be like, throw in the towel and be like, well, I just can't work out.
Yeah.
Like, you actively solved that problem. And I think that's one of the great qualities about you as a person, is that you're a good problem solver.
Absolutely.
Hence why you like math.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm good with problems.
Yeah, that's awesome. Which pregnancy was harder, the first or the second one?
My first.
The first one was the hardest.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was interesting. With my first, it was the time of year. I had her in late October, and that late summer was when it was so hot.
Yeah.
That was awful. Versus like with my second one, I was at Disneyland the day before I had her.
Okay.
So that one was definitely easier.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. And tell us, I know you already kind of brought up the postpartum stuff, but walk us through kind of your recovery. And I know you like the postpartum program that Caitlin put together. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I had 2 C-sections. So my recovery was a little different than most. But as soon as I got cleared, I think it was at the 6 weeks, I came in and started doing the postpartum with Caitlin. And she just does such a good job of reteaching you how to engage your core after that big life event. Like your body just completely changes in those 10 months. And then having surgery on top of that is kind of a lot. And learning how to re-engage your core, especially because that's always been a struggle of mine is I've had problems with engaging my core even before kids.
Right.
And so really learning how to engage your core and to kind of move slowly, and it's good. I feel like it's a good program even if you don't have kids.
Yeah.
Just to relearn the basics. But I found myself like just doing the most basic things and just being so fatigued afterwards and realizing, I have a long way to go.
Yeah. How long was that recovery? Kind of going through like everything from, having the baby to coming back to the gym full time and being able to do everything.
Well, I think about 3 months before I was back in the gym full time.
Okay.
But before I was like back to my previous self, I would say a full year.
A full year. Okay. So it took some time.
It did. And I purposely this time around took it slower and did the lighter weights and relearned how to do things correctly. Because, when we started CrossFit, it was more about putting up the weight than doing it correctly.
Yeah. Those were the old school days. Yeah. We've learned since then.
Yeah. Where it's a badge of honor to rip your hand. Like,
Not anymore.
Yeah. Not anymore. Yeah. So it was kind of fixing a lot of those it was a forced chance for me to fix a lot of those bad habits that we had early on.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah, I'm guilty of that.
My knees coming in on squats. That was a big one for me. And just being able to have that excuse to be like, no, I'm stripping it down. I'm going to do it correctly. And it's paying dividends now.
Yeah. And now look at it, it's really paid off. I mean, I would even argue that, sometimes it's nice to have that time off. Like, I mean, I know for the fact that since Caitlin's had 3 kids, it's been really helpful for her to kind of reset and then to start from the bottom. And then that also gives her that extra motivation because it's all about the climb, right?
It is.
Because believe me, I've gotten to the point where I've reached peak fitness when I was competing, and it was not fun because it required so much work just to stay there, to where now I'm kind of enjoying it again because I kind of lost some fitness and now I'm reclimbing again. So it's actually kind of fun.
Yeah, it's fun to start hitting those like post-baby PRs.
Yes,
like it's like,
exactly.
Okay, it's not where I was when I was 24, but I'm hitting things that I haven't hit in a long time, and that's always fun. Yeah,
and that's fantastic though that you're able to still do a lot of things that you were doing when you were 24 because, as we all age, muscle mass is going to get, has potential to start losing, and our cardiovascular function will slowly start declining. But if we're able to maintain the same level of fitness we are at 24, if we just maintain fitness, we're getting fitter technically.
Yeah.
Relative to the rest of the population. So that's fantastic. So I know you go through tough days. I mean, you're a teacher, you have long, stressful days, and you have 2 kids, and you have a family to take care of. What keeps you motivated to keep training even on tough days?
I know that I feel better after a workout.
Yeah.
Like I had one a couple weeks ago where I was not feeling good. I woke up, I was like, I'm tired. I don't want to do this, but I came and I did it anyways. And I felt so much better afterwards. And I told Caitlin, I was like, today was not my day. I was like, I feel so much better now.
Yeah.
And just knowing that you never regret it. I've never once had a day where I came in and did a workout and was like, oh, I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
Like I've never done that. And just having that knowledge of you're going to feel better and it's 1 hour out of your day. It keeps me going.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Do you have any pieces of advice that you would give people who maybe are struggling, who do tell themselves like, or who can't work up that motivation or that drive to actually follow through, even though they really don't want to do it?
You got to find something that you love. Like that's really it. Like when you find something that you love, that you're excited for, it makes all the difference. Like if I was going to a regular gym, I probably wouldn't have the same motivation. Mm-hmm. But if you find something that clicks for you, that you enjoy doing, you like the people that you're around, I think that's 99% of it.
Yeah.
That takes care of the motivation there.
Yeah. Let's kind of talk about that a little bit. Let's talk about environment. If you could put a number on it, on a scale of 1 to 10, how important do you think environment is in order to achieve some level of success in fitness?
It's up there. I'd say 8 or 9.
Wow, that high.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. If you're in a toxic environment, you don't want to be a part of it.
Yeah.
And you don't feel comfortable trying things and learning things. It's the same thing in my classroom. Like I feel like classroom environment is everything. If a kid doesn't feel comfortable taking a risk, then because they don't feel comfortable in their environment, they're not going to grow and learn. And I think it's the same thing in fitness. It's the same thing with our kids. Like if they're comfortable in our home, they're gonna grow and they're gonna learn. And I think it's the same thing with fitness.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you guys do a great job of creating a good environment.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, we try. We do our best. That's awesome. If someone is kind of starting their fitness journey, they don't really know where to start, because I mean, you've had a ton of experience doing this, and you started from almost nothing, and you've made it incredibly far, and you've been incredibly consistent. What's some advice you would give someone who is starting at absolutely nothing?
That it's okay to not be where everyone else is. That no one's going to judge you for it. Everyone started somewhere, and the only way you're going to get better is by trying things.
Yep. Yeah. Trying things is definitely it's hard for me to get over that hump too sometimes, where it's like I kind of get that mental block of where I don't want to be bad at it. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what holds a lot of people back, is that they look at something like CrossFit or functional fitness in general, and they look at that and they're like, well, I can't do that, so I need to get in shape first before I do that. So if someone says that, what would you tell them?
You can scale anything. Like that scaling is an okay option. And I mean, I still scale a lot of stuff, and that allows me to get better at things, and that there's no shame in it. No. That really, no matter where you are in your fitness journey, there's something you can do.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. 100%. Any other thoughts or words of wisdom from Shannon before we start to wrap things up?
No, I'm so happy with where my fitness journey has taken me, and I'm so lucky to have had such great coaches to take me along the way. And I'm just very grateful to have the gym that I do.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you so much. Oh, I do have one last question.
Yeah.
Where are you going to go from here? Like, what's we talked a lot about your teaching. We talked a lot about, how it impacts your kids. We talked about how it impacts your students. We talked about you and your journey, but let's talk about future Shannon.
I don't really know at this point. I'm really I feel like I found my groove right now, and I'm really happy with where I am, and I just want to keep improving with where I am. But I mean, maybe once my kids are older, I'll try new things. But I always once I started CrossFit, there were little things here and there where I was like, oh, I want to try this. Like there was one time I was like, oh, I'm going to try running a marathon. And I took a few months off and trained for a marathon and did it. And so maybe in the future, I'll find something like that I want to veer off to for a little bit. But right now, I'm really happy where I am.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Shannon, for coming on.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
Great having you. Great story. And can't wait to share it with everybody.